Joseph Lindsley standing by in Ukraine. Joseph, hi. I'd like to get your take on the news today that the Ukraine president and the Chinese president have talked on the phone, first time since the start of Russia's invasion. What do you make of that?
Well, while and Bob, good afternoon. While this conversation was happening, meanwhile, the Russian foreign minister has been speaking in New York in the United Nations because Russia is chairing the Security Council for the entire month of April. And, after more than 14 months now, China has you could say publicly been quiet because they've never condemned Russia's actions. But if you look closely at China's 12-point peace plan and at even the Chinese comments in the United Nations yesterday, China is on the side of Russia. It's two totalitarian nations. All of the threats that China has made and continues to make against Taiwan is of the same nature, almost the same language that Moscow has made against Ukraine. And so I think there's a lot of skepticism that there could be anything good from some kind of cooperation with China, but because they are powerful and because some think that could be a mitigating influence on Russia, that's why you have to sort of tread that's why some people think you have to tread carefully when it comes to Beijing. But meanwhile, if you look at what happened in the United Nations when Sergei Lavrov, when he, it's really quite astounding that while this war is happening, you have leaders of all of the civilized world in the same room as a representative of Russia. And Lavrov said, as he's chairing the Security Council, that this war was started to eliminate threats to Russian security that NATO has created for years. And even the foreign minister of Germany, and Germany's not always the strongest supporter, or the strongest critic of Russia and the strongest supporter of Ukraine, the foreign minister walked out. She said she couldn't listen to the foreign minister of Russia, could not listen to his lies. The Russian foreign minister spoke about how Ukrainians were depriving people of their rights. And this goes back to the Russian argument that Russian speakers had no freedom in Ukraine, which is completely ridiculous. I mean, actually, it was Ukrainian speakers that in eastern Ukraine were often made fun of in the mass media. They were mocked. And so, Ukraine is a free country. And to this day, even while Russia invades, many people speak Russian, even here in Lviv, those who've come from the east. And so it's patently untrue what he's saying. And amazingly, you had this great solidarity from around the world. You had all 27 European ambassadors spoke together. And the chief of them, Oleg Skug, he's the European ambassador to the United Nations. He said, while Russia is destroying, we are building. And so you had this great moment of solidarity from other world powers. And if you look at actually, especially some of the Eastern European nations, the little countries that have seen the threats of Russia in their history, like Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, they are giving almost 50% of their military budgets to Ukraine, which is astounding. The United States has given 5.5% of its military budget to support Ukraine. But these countries that understand the threat from Russia have given half, basically saying, here, Ukraine, take our weapons. You can do the work for us. And while I was watching these scenes at the United Nations, I was, you have at the high level, you have ambassadors and dignitaries standing for Ukraine, minus the Russians and the Chinese, of course. But then there's a great grassroots network on Twitter, and I don't know if anyone's heard of it. I'm sure some people have. It's called NAFO, which means North Atlantic Fellas Organization. It's a play on NATO, and this is it's just people. Maybe it's about 100,000 people, at least, all around the world, who since the early days of Russia's invasion would respond to propaganda. Every time Sergei Lavrov retweets something, you have hundreds of people creating memes, usually with kind of a sly dog and all kinds of memes and arguments. So half of the memes are sort of mocking the Russian propaganda as ridiculous, but then they also respond with well thought out arguments. And it really has provided, even the soldiers in the trenches are aware of NAFO, and people, that are on their cell phones tweeting in a cafe in California or in London are really seen as a huge part of this effort of standing with Ukrainians. And actually the NAFO, the Fellas Alliance has been able to raise tons of money for organizations that have proved themselves, that they actually get supplies delivered where they're needed to go. And so really it's quite an amazing group. And that even to join it, you have to prove that you have donated something to sort of a approved organization. And so if anyone wants to check it out, go to Twitter and check out NAFO. And all the members are called fellas, both men and women. And it's just another, as I listen to those voices in New York, in the United Nations, I also think of all these individual people all around the world standing with Ukraine.
Where is it again? Repeat that on Twitter, Joseph.
So you would just type in NAFO, NAFO, and it's not an organization. It's grassroots, which makes it impossible to destroy. And I think it's been a great frustration of Russia, because every single time a Russian government official tweets, within 5 minutes, you have a wealth of responses sort of poking holes in their arguments. So it's NAFO.
I saw a scary headline this morning. Ukrainian officials say evacuation measures are being implemented around the nuclear power plant there. What can you tell us about that?
Well, we're in this moment, and even the people in NAFO, as they're tweeting, the big theme right now is counteroffensive, sort of hashtag counteroffensive, and operational security. And there's a big sense that something is happening. I think, as we look at it, while Russia has been chairing the United Nations Security Council, there have not been major missile attacks. I think that Russia doesn't want to probably give easy fodder, to be criticized. But we have to remember that even while Lavrov is speaking in New York, villages and towns are getting shelled every single day and night. That has not stopped. In the past 24 hours, it's hard to tell exactly what's been happening in Bakhmut. And by the same token, that the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power plant, the largest nuclear power plant in Europe, right across from the city of Nikopol, which is shelled every single day and night. But that we don't know exactly where the movements are happening with the Ukrainian military. We know that there has been some gains in Kherson, which is a little bit to the west of the nuclear power plant. That's a very sensitive area, and that's the Russians have that position because they know Ukraine cannot easily attack it because the Ukrainians do not want to risk a nuclear disaster. And so I think in these next we're in this sort of, again, this strange period of there are things moving that we don't know what's happening, and that has to be by design. And I think I don't know. I can say, I mean, even everyone on Twitter is saying stay quiet. They're posting memes of people, with their finger to their mouth, saying stay quiet and be patient and just stay encouraged. And so there's great hope that there could be something great in the works. And I talked with people and saying that that intelligence leak that happened a few weeks ago, more and more it seems that it was extremely sinister because it did a lot to discourage a lot of people, and I've even seen that in a little bit of the conversations from America, and I think so. This is I would say, Bob, I don't know if there's ever been a point since February 24th, 2022, of such great anticipation as we are in right now.
Yes, I can hear the trepidation in your voice, understandably so, Joseph Lindsley in Ukraine. And it's okay, Joe. I mean, what, as I've said many times, I don't know how you do what you do beyond these excellent reports, going out, your daily jog, going to the cafes, and meanwhile war rages. I hope we have better news tomorrow. We'll talk then.
Thank you, Bob. Until tomorrow.
Thank you for introducing Ukraine on your social media pages. That's very important that much more people can get more information about the situation here and how everybody can help Ukraine to stay stronger and to save all the world.
Что он сказал?
Well, which side are you on?
На чьей ты стороне?
Come on now. Oh, which side are you on?
На чьей ты стороне?